Hey folks, Kilt-Man here, Kilt-Man at your services. Bit of heavy metal for you. Way! Bit of Iron Maiden. Yeah, heavy metal. Well, this metal ain't so heavy. This is kind of nimble and agile and can be used. You know, you may fire your musket, but I'll run you through. Oh yes. How are you all? Doing very well. Now, as you saw from that little prologue, I was bedecked as Eddie the Trooper from 1983's Iron Maiden album, Peace of Mind. Peace as in a peace of mind. Not just serenity and tranquility, as if. But on that album, which is fantastic anyway, there was the awesome single, The Trooper. And the Trooper had their mascot, Eddie. This guy here, Eddie, dressed in British red tunic, carrying the Union Jack, sword swathed in gore, and he was storming across the battlefield of the Crimea, because you're hearing it now, this is The Trooper, and it's based on Alfred Lord Tennyson's poem about the charge of the Light Brigade during the Battle of the Crimea. Well, the Battle of Balaclava during the campaign of the Crimea, 1854. And the thing I love about Iron Maiden is that they base so many things around, well, horror stories, great literate horror stories from the classics, many movies, and battles and warriors and tribes and conflicts, and the lyrics are fantastic. And of course, Bruce Dickinson, oh my god, that vast range, that operatic range is just, there's no other band that can compete with that. Now, everyone that knows me and has grown up with me, and well, anyone that knows me basically, I am not a metalhead. I'm just not. I know I might have all this kind of stuff going on, and a bit of, like, you know, chains and bracelets and bingles and bangles, and I might try to be aggressive and all that, but the thing is, I am not in the mosh pit and giving it all that shit. I'm not. When I was a kid, I was a mod during the big mod revival, and we didn't like the sweats and the grease balls and all that who were into heavy metal and grungy stuff. We didn't like them. No, we didn't. And then I was kind of progressive and new wave, and then new romantic. Oh yeah. Yeah, well, as you well know, I was massively sporting the mullet, all shaved around these bits and bobs, spiked up to hell and back here, and all the way down me back there. But if you had all this stuff, no. How the world turns. Folks, I'm still not a metalhead, but I do adore Iron Maiden. The lyrics, the songs, that galloping guitar, Dave Murray, Steve Harris, the way that they compete with each other, and it became a trademark, this relentless barreling charge, and the way that they tell stories, musically tell stories, and Dickinson's voice. Jesus. I know there was a brief sojourn there, well, brief, it was a few years, when Blaze Bayley took over when Bruce Dickinson went his own way. And the fans didn't really like that, did they? I mean, I think the mistake there was they tried to make Blaze sing like Bruce Dickinson, and he couldn't. That wasn't his ability. I mean, that said, he still came out with the awesome The Klansman, which is their epic telling of William Wallace, which is just truly awesome. So from that tenure, the Blaze Bayley tenure, that's still an absolute classic, I think. But Dickinson's back, and these guys have been going since the 70s. Holy shit, since the 70s. They're in the middle of a big mad tour. COVID disrupted it. They're still going to go and carry on with the tour. And Eddie. This guy here, Eddie, their mascot, their figurehead. There's my figurehead and mascot there, Mr. Kentucky Fudge, and he's wearing an old 1870 little Shaco Yeah, oh yeah, he knows his stuff as well. But my friend, an excellent sculptor and mask producer, Erich Lubatti, working for Trickle Street Studios, has done many of the elaborate Eddie masks for Iron Maiden. Eddie was originally in their little Dagenham, I think it was Dagenham, when they were just doing pubs and clubs around town and that, like, they had a little paper mache head in the background, and they just called it, that's the head over there, the head, but with that accent, Eddie became their huge figurehead. So you'd see him on all the album covers and all the single covers in a variety of different guises. He could be an Egyptian pharaoh, he could be a cyborg, he could be from Aces High. He's got a dog fighter's goggles on and leather hat on, screaming through the sky. The Trooper. So many different machinations of this character, this unearthly, decomposed, rotting, yet still full of spit and vigour character who's still going to fight the good fight in any time period, any sort of milieu. He'd be there. And the album cover for Peace of Mind features our friend here, and he's in a straitjacket, in a padded cell. And this mask, sculpted magnificently by Erich Lubatti and sold by Trickle Street Studios, is based on that album cover. But the thing is, I love the image of the Trooper from the Battle of Balaclava, the Crimean War, that image from the single The Trooper, which I've described and I did in the prologue there. Now, the thing is, all the different incarnations, that's the same. He has the same face for the Trooper, the single from that album, as he does on the album cover. So, great stuff, no worries. There's so many other versions, punk, glam rock versions, and all sorts of stuff, like the Devil. He's been everything and everyone, and he's ongoing. He's still going strong. So, and Erich has done, I think, most of the Iron Maiden masks for Trick or Treat. I think there's a couple of people who've also done a couple, but there is the vast swathe is by Erich, and they are magnificent. Erich, we've spoken many times, but I never actually mentioned Iron Maiden to you, and you've got to be a huge fan. You must be, to have got all this so well done. You must be. I mean, look at this. Look at this. So the idea is that on Peace of Mind, Eddie's been lobotomized, but you'll find that this sort of trepanning around the cranium is on most of the imagery of Eddie anyway. And we have the sort of screw fixtures here, which always makes me think of Steve Martin in The Man with Two Brains. He's pioneered the cranial screw top method of entry into the brain for brain surgery, and he's the great Dr. And he meets the Anne Umelmahay. For those who haven't seen The Man with Two Brains, watch it. It is one of the best slapstick comedies going. Awesome stuff. But back to Eddie, my friend here. His mummified flesh. Look at all the wrinkles. Look at all of this going on here. It's outstanding. The desiccation and the rot is just magnificent. The blazing eyes. That grimace, the rictus grin, the tongue lolling there. The blood shimmering down. Blood, is it war paint? It really doesn't matter. It could be either. It's blood. It's blood. And we've got another screw top on the back there. We've got some rather profound cracks in the skull. It's just awesome. This is sort of taken from the look of Boris Karloff as the Mummy for the original Mummy. And of course, Iron Maiden would totally appreciate that sort of thing, because that's what their stock in trade is, raging, pioneering anthems which are about literate and movie horror spectacle and the battles and the carnage of yesteryear. They're heroic, they're brave, they're always about last stands, they're always about pride and honour in the face of death. And the reason why I love the Trooper so much is because that image is spectacular. Let's face it, Iron Maiden also brewed their own beer, the Trooper beer. You got all the beer mats, and the beer's wonderful as well. Nice one, boys. I love it. And I'm a whiskey drinker, for God's sake. But that image, the red tunic, carrying the Union Jack, storming across a battlefield, already wounded but just not ever giving up. That is the epitome of what Maiden always strive to put across in their live gigs, in their studio albums, in their singles. Every performance is literally a do or die suicide mission, and that's what you get from it. And this guy is the epitome of it. It's fantastic. Now, a little bit of history for you. In that little prologue there, I was not wearing the trousers that this guy wears on the single and, you know, all the imagery of the Trooper. But I have got those trousers. They're here, folks, they're here. But I'm wearing a kilt. And I'm wearing a kilt because in the Battle of Balaclava and the Siege of Sebastopol, which was just further down, when the British, with many Scottish regiments and allies, including the Turks, the idea was to stop Russia from getting to the Mediterranean, getting a foothold right the way across Europe. That was the plan. So, Alfred Lord Tennyson's poem, The Charge of the Light Brigade. The British Light Brigade did a massive foolhardy cavalry charge at Balaclava against the Russian guns, not realising they weren't meant to charge then and there. The order got mistaken, as happens in combat, especially back in those days. Lines of communication are so shite, and they charged basically to their deaths. Heroic, vainglorious charge, a stampede into the Russian guns, and the poem's epic, and the song The Trooper is based around that. The imagery isn't quite from the battle itself, because the light cavalry did not wear the red tunics. They were, well, clearly the Trooper is an infantryman. So, oh, by the way, Erich, your good health, fantastic mask. Coming on to that again in depth in a moment. But indulge me in the battle, the steam, the heat, the sweat, the blood, the tears, the agony of carnage, of battle. So yeah, but the Battle of Balaclava is also very famous for two other things, which were not so much the charge of the Light Brigade, which was doomed, the charge of the Scots Greys. The Scots Greys was a regiment that had already distinguished themselves in the Battle of Waterloo. And Quatre Bras, they'd been there and they had completely steamrolled and eradicated the French. Fantastic. They did a similar charge against Russian cavalry and infantry and the guns, and succeeded in pushing them back and beating them. But that red tunic, folks, that red tunic, and me wearing a kilt before, I just couldn't resist. Who knows the term, the thin red line? Yes, it's a very famous term. And I'm surprised that Iron Maiden have actually used the track with that title, the thin red line, because it's perfect. But the thin red line has become to denote standing in the face of absolute adversity. And it can be, the police are obviously the thin blue line, but the thin red line refers to facing overwhelming odds and standing your ground. Because during the Siege of Sebastopol, which was further down the road in Balaclava, a lot of Allied troops, British Allied troops, have been diverted down there. But the Russian cavalry were going to charge who was left behind. And who was left behind but the 93rd Highlanders. These were the Sutherland Highlanders, and they became, well, they would amalgamate later on into the Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders. And they were something like, I don't know, 500 strong. And when the Russian cavalry charged, they formed a battle line. Normally, when infantry face a cavalry charge during Victoriana age, and many decades preceding that, the British Army, their tactics would be to form a square with the corners fighting, and the flanks fighting every single direction of the cavalry charge. A defensive, you're building literally a castle or a fort out of human bodies, muskets and steel bayonets. Wall of steel. But 93rd Highlanders didn't do that. They formed a line, and a war correspondent who was there, I think the only war correspondent who was there, actually described it as being a thin streak of red. So he was misquoted in the press, and he called it a thin red line. He then later realised that, yeah, actually that sounds better, so let's keep it as that, the thin red line, and that's become historical and become like a clarion call for fantastic heroism and bravery, loyalty and dedication to duty in the face of overwhelming odds. And that Scottish line, although they were allied by Turks at the time as well, and I don't want to be disparaging of the Turks, but a lot of them did turn them none. Because even though they weren't outnumbered, this is the thing, the Russian cavalry charging them had less in number than was facing them in this raggedy scarlet line, this red line. But it doesn't matter. As I said before, always infantry had formed up in squares or retreated because they couldn't face cavalry. These guys stood the ground and they beat back the Russian cavalry. A heavy charge, a massive charge of massed cavalry, and they repulsed it and beat it back. Many casualties on their side too, but that was a turning point in battle strategy and in battlefield heroics. It had not been done before. A thin line, one defensive line going against a charging, stampeding line of cavalry. It just hadn't been done, and they did it, and they beat them. So, Battle of Balaclava, the doomed failure of the Charge of Light Brigade, but you had the Scots Greys who won, and you had the 93rd Highlanders who won. So that's why I wore the kilt there, because those regiments and many other Scottish regiments really fought exceptionally well and got many battle honours in the Crimean War. Anyway, so there's the basis of Eddie the Trooper, because he wears the red tunic you saw me in. Well, it's there, you can see it now. But there's the mask again, from Trick or Treat Studios, sculpted exquisitely, as always, by Erich. Look at the deep groove of the trepanning. Trepanning is soaring into the skull. This is what they used to do for, sort of vintage, early on surgery. We can relieve pressure on the brain. There's a musket shot in there. There's trauma over here. We can alleviate that. We've learned how to do it, but it means soaring through the skull. Oh dear God. But Eddie from the cover of Peace of Mind is meant to have been lobotomized and sitting in a padded cell in a straitjacket, and he's still going, ah! Look at the burning lights in his eyes. You see through these bits here. There he is. The blaze of his life, his undying life. The stretched skin, the rictus tear up here. He's up there. The teeth, we're not talking fangs, we're just talking big teeth. His lolling, rotted tongue, the shadow within here. The paintwork is exquisite, as you can see as well. The detail within all the cracks and crevices, and this sort of semi-mummified face. Because look, it's clearly, it's kind of a hybrid of desiccated flesh and a mummification process. We have skeletal nose that remains, the nasal cavities there, and this is across the board. In many of the incarnations of Eddie, it's that face, but with different headgear on and maybe sort of different apparatus that he's wearing, different apparel, different colouring. But for me, always the Trooper has shone proud, stood bold and heroic. And even when I was a kid, and I didn't really know Iron Maiden, in fact, well, let's say I didn't know them. In 83, I knew who they were. 1983, not when I was 83, in my previous lifetime. Get on with it, I know, yeah. I was aware of them, but I didn't like them. But only when I began to listen and think, shit, you know what, that doesn't sound like all the other metal shite that I don't like. There's melody, there's rhythm, and I can hear the guy singing, I can hear the words he's singing. Hang on, but that's not what heavy metal's about, is it? Is it? In your case, it is. You're right. So, Bruce, still going. Bruce, awesome. I know, mate, I know it. They really shouldn't try to make you hit those high notes again. I know, but God love you for trying. God love you for trying. Because I reckon you can still do it. But just do your best, mate. You are friggin' awesome. But this mask, as the mascot that is, I mean, look at the chiseled in visage, the way it cuts in here, the profile, the shape, the detail, the sculpt, the arch around these eyes, these satanic deep black eyes with these burning sort of celestial orbs. Beautiful. The lovely red of the blood. War paint, blood, it's blood, it's blood. This is a fantastic mask. Now, as I say, Eric's done quite a few from the whole Iron Maiden run, Eddie run, and a few other sculptors have done them as well. But these are fantastic. And I held out for quite some time, because this is not a new mask, folks, it's been out for quite some time. But I held out from buying any Iron Maiden masks because I just thought, once you start, you're going to have to get them all. Because you know what I'm like, I'm the vast collector, I must have everything, you know, and I must have it now. But I just thought, shit, it's going to cost me a bloody fortune. And finally, I bit the bullet, I bit the musket ball, yeah. You fire your musket, but I run you through. And now I've done it, now I've took the leap. It's going to happen. Doesn't this look great? Look at him. Look at me, Union Jack. Look at our friend here. Look at Bruce Dickinson, the shark, and he's got the severed, ripped off face of a victim there. I don't just throw these things together, you know. They take some planning. But look at him, look at that. There are many more elaborate images that Eddie has. I know there are. Eric's done plenty of them, and they are fantastic. The cyborg one, you know, and the futuristic bloody things and all that. Like, they're just unbelievably good. So intricate and so well designed, yet keeping his look, his face. It's still Eddie, just in a different guise. But for me, this simplistic look has always been the one. You know, when I was a kid, you know, I saw the album covers. I'd be in record shops and I'd see the album covers and I'd see the Trooper, and I'd be like, Iron Maiden. But I was getting that grudging sort of respect for them the more I heard of them and the more I saw this kind of imagery, and I just thought, you know, there's something more going on there. It isn't just the satanic crap which heavy metal is always associated with. And I love the way that Iron Maiden also fought back against those stupid puritanical, evangelical fucking knobheads in America, started banning all their records and that, like, you know, they're satanic, number of the beast and all that, like, oh yeah. So we've got hidden messages, playing backwards, and all that, just taking the piss, Idi Amin, belching and all that, like, on that. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Because you guys, Iron Maiden seem just have the same interest as myself, and definitely many of you watching this now who are channel subscribers, because you're into your horror movies, you're into your classic gothic horror stories, and that's what most of their songs are all hinged upon. And it's fantastic stuff. I love it, and long may it continue. I mean, their legacy is huge, their influence is just tremendous. As I say, those galloping guitars, it's just Dave Murray, Steve Harris, that stuff, that transferred into so many other groups. I know they were sabotaged by bloody Ozzy, yeah, and Sharon, yeah. You didn't like what they were up to, did you? No. So you had to go and start filing in the works. I don't know if all that shit's all worked out now. It might be, I don't know. But anyway. But it's all... In a different life, I would be involved in the music industry. If not the film industry, it would be the music industry. I'm a flamboyant, outgoing sort of guy. And I love the sound of my own voice. I just can't fucking sing. And I can't play an instrument either. But I can bang the bongos. Yeah. Look back, there's a video. I've got some bongos. And I can't play them. But I'd love to have been the front man of some kind of... I would always have said new romantic. But I'm thinking about it now, looking at me now, the age that I am. I could be fucking cavorting around the stage, doing cartwheels in a kilt. I couldn't play a guitar, but you've got other guys to do that kind of shit for you, haven't you? Grab that mic and just roar into it like, yeah. Custer's last stand, yeah. Arrows flying at me. See, there's my audition. The folks, there you go. Oh, the Trick or Treat label, there, the tag, there you go. That's from the album cover, so you can see him there, that face there. He's chained up and he's in a straight jacket and in a padded cell, a very gothic looking, horribly rancid, cheesy coloured padded cell. And it's a great image. But that face is the face of the trooper as well. So I mean, that's clearly why there's not been a mask released of the trooper, because it's that. If there's a difference, please, Eric, let me know, because maybe I might have overlooked something, I don't know, but I don't think I have. I think that's still the face of the trooper from Peace of Mind album. He's still retaining that same look, the stripped down look. It's just the skull, the Richter's face, the skull head, the mummified face, and the cranial screw top method of entry. This is friggin' awesome. And that looks beautifully bronzed and coppered. You know, it looks antiquated. I love the way the paintwork is worked on that. And you've got the screws there. And they look real as well. Look great, don't they? And this deep groove. It's beautiful. Beautiful. I'm going to put it on again. Of course, I took all the costume off now, haven't I? Look at that, folks, that is just absolutely friggin' awesome. Look at it. And you've got a generous sort of chest and neck and sort of quarter shoulder piece. Comes down the back a bit. Look at it. And of course, I've been talking about sort of modifying masks and doing your own bits and bobs on them. Nothing needs to be done to that. Nothing at all. That colour, because don't forget, it's off artwork. It's not off a makeup effect that someone has done. It's off an album cover and a single cover. So the colour, the detail is taken from that, but put in 3 dimensions. And it's a bang up job. Eric's done an absolutely monumental job, as always. I've got many more masks from Eric as well. I've reviewed them. They're all there. They're all there. But this has now, I'm afraid, opened up a bit of a heavy metal floodgate for me. Oh shit. Mrs. Kilt-Man ain't gonna be happy about this, because since it's arrived, I've been playing non-stop Maiden. Non-stop Maiden. Awesome. This is Peace of Mind at the moment, and I really do hope that this video gets out there, because I've just realised as well, that usual bugbear of YouTube, copyrights. Oh no, I could have screwed things up completely. I hope not, because I really want you guys to see this mask. It's beautiful. The shape, the look, the grimace, the kind of rebellious look. You know, he's not a zombie or a mummy that's in pain. He's like, fuck you, I'm coming for you. And that's what it's all about. Defiance, rage, power, glory. Awesome. Erich, fantastic mask, as always. God, I need to get the rest of them now. Damn you! But for me, and Eddie, rock on. Oh, let's not forget my little mascot here, Mr. Kentucky Fudge. I mean, look, he's done his best. He's tried, you know. Somehow he just doesn't quite kind of match the raging heroism of this guy. Well, I know, you've got eyes like cream eggs, so it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work, does it? So folks, I have been and always shall be Kilt-Man at your services. And some of those services might be a little bit heavier in the metal department than you previously thought. I'm going to see you all and as Arnie would say, go! Run! Get to the hills!